At 2:14 am, the living room motion alarm went off. At 2:16, my 10-year-old son, groggy but alert, hit the panic switch hidden under his bed exactly like we'd practiced. By 2:19, police officers had Patricia Garrison in handcuffs, thrashing in my blackout curtains, screeching about urgent code compliance checks. She had slipped in through the laundry room's unlatched window, convinced she was on a mission. Her justification? She claimed she suspected the use of unapproved LED bulbs. My name is David Mercer. I'm a widower and IT support technician for a regional bank. I don't organise cookouts, I don't linger for mailbox gossip, and I don't mow my lawn every third day like the Maple Ridge HOA handbook smugly suggests. My son Jake and I live quietly, which apparently painted a target on us for Patricia, the self-appointed property aesthetics coordinator. To her, our porch light and quiet lifestyle were threats to neighbourhood values. The first signs were petty. Notes shoved under my door at odd hours. A warning about a non-compliant decorative item, which turned out to be a leftover Halloween skull I'd forgotten in the yard. Then came a $75 fine for so-called illegal pathway lighting, even though the small solar lamps were installed long before I purchased the house. Patricia invented ordinances on the fly, citing sections she herself had added to her handwritten rule book. She once rang my bell at 6:42 am sharp on a Saturday to scold me for a seasonally ambiguous wreath. It wasn't a wreath at all, just a eucalyptus circle my late wife had crafted years ago. On another occasion, she tried entering my backyard, insisting she needed to measure the height of my grass. When I told her to leave, she puffed up and promised to return with proper authorization. Neighbors often spotted her crouched behind shrubs, peering through binoculars and whispering into a walkie-talkie. City code enforcement later confirmed she had no connection to them and certainly no special communication device. Soon, the harassment took a darker turn. My trash bins were mysteriously tipped over every Tuesday night. My outdoor security cable was sliced cleanly, likely with garden shears. That's when I invested in a full upgrade infrared cameras with cloud backups, alarms on every window, and panic buttons installed at Jake's height. I taught him the routine: press the button, lock the door, hide. We drilled until he could do it in his sleep. Patricia's fixation peaked after I skipped her mandatory beautification seminar. She began pacing my yard at midnight, photographing trash cans at dawn, and once even followed Jake from the bus stop, claiming she needed to check his backpack for contraband gum. That's when I filed my first report, though police said, unless she trespassed inside, their hands were tied. The night it all changed began quietly. Jake was asleep by 9:30. I double-checked the locks, then worked on emails. At midnight, I faintly heard Patricia ranting on her porch about the collapse of neighborhood standards. By 2:00 am, she'd armed herself with a flashlight, a laminated rulebook, and a digital camera. She prowled my windows until she found the laundry room left ajar. She slipped inside, knocking over a bottle of fabric softener. The living room sensor caught her instantly. Jake, ever vigilant since the bus stop incident, triggered his panic button the second he heard the tone. The silent alarm pinged police with our coded distress call. I secured Jake in his room, told him he did everything right, and pulled up. The camera feed. Patricia crept across my living room, snapping photos of coffee table magazines and muttering about non-compliant literature. She rifled through my refrigerator, photographing milk cartons with theatrical disgust. Police arrived in just over 4 minutes. I unlocked the door and officers swept in with weapons drawn. Patricia panicked, dove into my curtains, and shrieked that she was conducting an authorized inspection. She brandished her laminated handbook like a warrant. Once they realized this was an HOA zealot rather than a burglar, a supervisor was called. Patricia argued frantically that HOA rules granted her implied consent to enter any property. The officer calmly explained that trespassing and burglary laws don't bow to HOA guidelines. Patricia doubled down, claiming she was preserving property values. Investigations revealed she'd invaded at least 3 other homes: the Johnsons, the Dwins, and elderly Mr. Crawford, though none had proof until my footage surfaced. My cloud-backed video showed every moment, from her testing windows to photographing my fridge. My lawyer laughed when he saw her entangled in curtains. Within 48 hours, news outlets aired the clips under headlines like HOA president or trespasser. Patricia shrieking, "This is my jurisdiction," became a viral meme. The HOA board convened an emergency meeting. 200 residents attended. The vote to remove Patricia and abolish her 23-page amendment was unanimous. The HOA dissolved that very night. Patricia faced multiple charges: breaking and entering, trespassing, unlawful surveillance, and endangerment of a minor. Her lawyer pleaded obsession, but the jury only needed to watch her midnight fridge inspection to convict. Jake testified via video, describing how scared he was and how he followed our plan. Jurors scowled when he explained she'd stalked him. From the bus stop, deliberation took under 2 hours. Patricia was sentenced to 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, $15,000 restitution, and a permanent ban from any HOA role statewide. She gasped when the ban was read, clutching the table like she'd lost her crown.